The way we see the world creates the world we see, does it? I mean, it's not just to accept these things and go, oh yeah, okay. Does it? Does the way we see the world create the world we see? I think so. That's been my experience. But it requires a little bit of looking at. It's not something that you immediately know, because the world, our existence, it's an illusion that's geared up to be very believable. So it's like going to a very believable 3D movie. You want to enjoy it, so you don't want to keep remembering that it's not real and that it's a 3D movie. So the world is a bit like that. It's geared up to feel very believable and very real. And one of the ways it does that is that you don't have any influence. This is just a movie that's just happening to you. It's not you're just you're participating, but you're also just someone who's watching the movie. You didn't write it. You didn't choose the actors. You didn't do any of that stuff. That's what the way the illusion is geared up. So it can take a little while for you to kind of go, I think I can influence this thing. That's not a natural, it's not intuitive. Well, maybe it is intuitive, but it doesn't come naturally. That sense of, you know what, I think I can maybe do something here. But you begin to notice it through talking to people, because you've probably met people and they're like, oh, the world is a terrible place full of terrible people. And you're like, I'm not so sure about that. And they then go on to explain to you why you are wrong. And they do a great job of explaining to you why you're wrong, and maybe you're depressed for half an hour or whatever. And then you just get back to the way you were thinking beforehand. You just automatically, naturally kind of reset back to the way you were thinking. And for the most part, your world everybody is quite nice. It's not your experience that people are terrible. It's not your experience that people are awful or anything like that. By and large, everyone's pretty nice, and by and large, it's pretty good. So that begins to kind of go, because maybe you meet that person again 6 months later and they're saying exactly the same thing, and they tell you all the reasons, this thing happened to me, this other thing happened to me, then that person betrayed me, and then this other person stole from me, and they've just got this litany of evidence to back up the way they see the world. And when you come across someone that's a very stark opposite to you, it's like currently politically everything's very divided. We're kind of very encouraged to be very divided. You're either one thing or another, which is hilarious, because we're far from black and white about anything. We're very grey. There's nuance to everything, but nuance is not very popular at the moment. So you can meet someone who's at the other end of the spectrum from you ideologically, and they can explain why they see the world that way, and you can kind of go, yeah, right. And then who they talk to, who they listen to, they've got all these examples, and you can kind of go, wow, yeah, I can see how from their perspective that is the way things are the way they think they are, because they think the way they do. You can kind of see it. And once you can see it like that with somebody else, then you can kind of go, well, hang on a minute. Maybe it's the same for me. Maybe the world I see is because of all the evidence I've gathered for the way I see the world, which is another nice little step to make. Because then you can kind of go, okay, so I'm happy enough with my world. Like your degree of happiness, let's say maybe I'm 50% happy with the world, or maybe I'm 60%, or maybe I'm only 30%. Either way, once you get this thing of, this is all pretty subjective, that crazy person at the other end of the spectrum from me sees the world one way, and they have all their reasons, and yeah, you know, so the world looks that way to them, and I am on the other end, so I see it the other way. And without getting into a who's right or who's wrong, which is which uses a lot of energy when you do that, without getting into that, you can sidestep it and go, well, maybe it's influenceable. Maybe this thing that I'm in I can do something with it. Maybe I can change it a little bit. So then you can kind of pick through your perspectives, the way you see things, and go, so I think everyone's okay, and so everybody is okay, and I think it's okay for me to earn a reasonable amount of money, so I do, but I'm lonely, or I'd like my family, my kids they don't call me as much as they used to, or whatever it is. You can kind of go, okay, so maybe I have a thing about it, so maybe I can start to gather evidence in the direction that I'd like it to go. Maybe let's say if it's money, I'm concerned about money. I don't think I earn enough money, or I'd like to earn more money. Well, maybe I can start looking into what's going on there, because a lot of this kind of stuff it's behind the scenes. It's not immediately obvious what our thinking is that has led to our reality, and we can begin to sort of pick it apart a bit and change it. And you might go, well, that's not going to make any difference. You mightn't say it in that high-pitched voice. Yeah, but it does make a difference. It does in the same way. Because you can be sure the person who thinks the world is a terrible place, they didn't wake up one morning and go, you know what, I'm sick of everything going so well. I think I'm going to start thinking that the world is a terrible place. It just happened, accumulated over time. They gathered the moss of that particular perspective. So it's kind of the same. You can go, oh, okay, so I can begin to change it. I can begin to change the way I think. I can become conscious of the unconscious thoughts that I have, and I can change the way I think to point my little boat of reality more in the direction of what I want to. And then this meme becomes more real, you know. The way we see the world is it becomes the world that we see. It becomes like that then. So yes, definitely worth. It's very helpful, particularly if you want to make the world a better place. If you want to, nature is lovely, nature's grand, but the way we treat each other, if you want that to improve, then beginning to think like that and seeing your own power in it, and seeing what the way you expect things to be makes a difference, and in a way creates the way things are. That's very helpful.